talk that we have is about loving your neighbor, which is the second of those two greatest commandments. And the one who will be giving that talk is a sister who is also perfect to give this talk because she really puts others before herself a lot. And yeah, so without further ado, Jill.
When do you want me to play it? When do you want me to play it? What video? Sorry.
Do you have a PowerPoint? Is there a click? Is there like a
Clear? Yeah.
first one with this thing? So
You want me to put it up there?
yes, please. I don't have a mic. I don't know. No.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. I hope everyone is still up and about and energized and happy that it's Friday. Thank you. So, my name is Jill, and I like what Marge just said about our love story with the Lord. And all of our love stories with God began when we were formed in our mother's wombs, right? When God first, like the very thought of creating us and placing us in our mother's wombs, that's when our love stories began. But for me, my love story began with Him when I first became cognizant of this love story. Was 10 years ago when I joined this wonderful ministry. So. And the love story continues to develop and unfold and ripen as time goes by and with different experiences that we all have. So I'm going to start with asking a question. What is your definition of love? I have prizes. Anybody? Ed?
God.
God, that's a good one. Good one. I'm gonna give you a prize. I'm not gonna pass these around. Yeah, you can have the whole thing. Yeah. What else? What else? Does anyone else have anything? Throw any word out there. Jesus? Who said Jesus?
Sacrifice. Jesus. Yeah.
It's a good thing I mentioned that right now.
Yeah, I got that.
You get a prize too.
Wait,
But these prizes are required for sharing, so please do share amongst yourselves.
Yeah, geez.
So, yeah, I want to, first off, I want to thank Marge for the wonderful Talk 5 that we just had. And I want to, again, congratulate all of you for, and welcome you into the second module of the Christian Life program. So the purpose of this talk is to pretty much explain and understand the meaning of what Christian love is and what Christian love is not. Because we live in this wonderful world that God has given us, and we have come to understand what a worldly version of this love is, and it's what we all first come to think of when we think of the word love. So, I'm thinking this is the right thing to press?
Yeah.
This big circle right here?
No, the right?
Oh, just kidding. It's not working.
Jill, I'll take a plug.
Sorry, guys.
Here, hold on. Technical. You have to take this out.
Oh, you need that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Ed?
Thank you, Ed.
Let it. Is it on?
Bam! Okay.
That's the call first.
It's on. It takes a second to register. Okay. Ah. Thank you, Holy Spirit.
There you go.
So, this talk is about loving your neighbor. So, Marge's talk was about loving God. And in the Christian life, these two ideals, they go together, right? So, loving God and loving your neighbor. God commanded us to first love Him, to love Him with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul. And secondly, He says, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So what exactly does He mean by loving your neighbor as yourself? We're going to explore this. So the core of the Christian life are these two ideals that go hand in hand, loving God and loving your neighbor. In 1 John 4:20 through 21, it says, if someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For the one who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And this commandment we have from him, that the one who loves God should love his brother also. So how amazing is this that God commands us to first love Him, but also to love our fellow brethren. And therefore, if you don't have a love for others, do we have a love for God and for Christianity? So, the question to ask is, what exactly is the definition of Christian love? So the first thing I'm going to do is, we're going to ask ourselves what Christian love is not. So earlier I asked the question of what is love? Like, what is our personal definition of love? Without having come into this talk, without having any initial understanding of what the talk is about, what do we think about? We ask the age-old question when it comes to romantic relationships, right? Do you love him, or are you in love with him? Do you love her, or are you in love with her? What is the definition of love, and what is the definition of Christian love? So first off, Christian love, it's not about just having positive feelings. So feelings, we were talking about feelings in Marge's talk. So it's not just about having these positive feelings that are created from actions and giving romantic letters and chocolate and candy, candlelit dinner. I don't know what you guys want to do when it comes to romance, right? All of these things are great, don't get me wrong. All of these things are really good, but it is not what Christian love is about. In fact, I mean, it isn't wrong to give things to other people as a form of love. It's a sign of love. It's a type of love language, if you will, to give, right? But it's not the only way of Christian love. And what's wrong with love being a feeling? Feelings can change, right? Feelings are fleeting, they come and go, and they can't be the sole basis for love for that reason. And because of this, people tend to oftentimes interchange the feeling of love, or they'll interchange it, they will interchange love with lust, or misinterpret lust for love, right? For instance, some people will equate love with some sort of like physical warmth or affection, or sexual attraction to the opposite sex. But to follow true feelings of love, you shouldn't just equate your love to just feelings. And unfortunately, this is the way the world is. This is the way most of the world operates, and the way that everybody understands love to be. So we have to remember that feelings will come and go, and they are based on situations in our life that cause us to feel a certain way. But love has no past, present, or future. Love is constant. So another thing that Christian love is not, is it's not always about saying yes. So, I personally struggle with this. People that know me, that are smiling, will know and agree. My name is Jill, and I have a problem with control. I personally struggle with this. So here in this ministry, and it's not just about serving others in this ministry, it's really serving others in our lives, right? We serve our peers at work, we serve our parents, we serve our siblings, we serve our boyfriend and girlfriend, and we serve our spouses. And we serve each other here in this ministry as brothers and sisters. So what I mean by saying love is not always about saying yes is that sometimes we often want to take on way too much. I speak for myself. I am the eldest of 5 children and my mother's only daughter. And so I often struggle with wanting to do everything and do everything the way I want to do it, because I often think that my siblings won't do it the way I want to do it. So the problem with always saying yes is we will oftentimes end up losing the focus as to why you said yes in the first place. Your labor of love will eventually just be labor, and you lose the point, you lose the focus as to why you're choosing to do something for somebody else. And another reason why is, especially here in this ministry, or let's say with our fellow siblings, right? We want to allow other people to have a chance to experience certain things. We want to allow other people to have a chance to grow to grow personally, to grow in their faith. And so it is okay, it is absolutely okay to say no. It doesn't mean that you love any less. It doesn't mean that you are loved any less. Another thing that goes with this misconception is that some people think that saying yes to everything is being a loving person, and tries to please everybody, which is not the case. And so again, we will find ourselves losing the point of focus and the reason behind the yes. And I love this quote by Blessed Mother Teresa, and she once said, "We cannot do great things, but we can only do small things with great love." Another one is love is not defensive. So this is a very common one that we all experience, right? So I think it is safe to assume that most, if not everybody, has experienced hurt when it comes to love, right? This isn't just limited to romantic love between boyfriends and girlfriends or significant others, but it even, any relationship we have. We end up in a boxing match with people, a love boxing match. And sometimes we're afraid to love because love is risky, right? You take a chance when you make the choice to love others, because we've all been hurt and we put up this guard, this wall, and say, I want to prevent myself from being hurt. I want to prevent myself from feeling heartache. Therefore, I'm keeping my distance. I'm not going to love. But this is a guarded kind of love, and it tries to protect ourselves from injury, and that's not the kind of love that we should have. A big lesson in our faith, and something that I am constantly reminded as I continue to grow in my faith, is that Christian love is not guaranteed to be painless. Pain is endured through commitment, and injury is sustained through forgiveness. But Christian love is not guaranteed to be painless. It's always a protecting love, but it's not necessarily a preventing love. Another one is that love is not self-seeking. So, this pretty much means the focus of love is not about loving ourselves. Let me put this right. It's not about loving ourselves, but loving others. And then, some people might think, well, you have to love yourself first in order to love others, which is absolutely true. By nature, Christian love is ready for self-denial. So you have to deny yourself, just like Jesus died for us. We have to die to ourselves for our fellow brothers and sisters. And we shouldn't just serve and be up here in order to be noticed by other people or to to feed our egos or anything like that. We have to serve in order to give, in order to show love to other people. And you know, it's easy to fall into this feeling of not being appreciated or being taken for granted, not being thanked for things. But you know what? It's okay to strive for our very best in life. But remember, no matter what, that we only have an audience of one. Christian love is not manipulative. So the definition of manipulation is when you give love as a reward, or you take away or withdraw love as a form of punishment. And because love is such a powerful thing, people are tempted to use love in this way, unbeknownst to them, right? And this is conditional love, and it is exact opposite of what God has taught us by dying for us, because the form of God dying for us is it's an absolute unconditional love. It's a love called agape, which is a Greek word, and it's originated by the Greek language. Just in its very definition is unconditional love. So we will go into. I don't know who this guy is. He's just my. I've named him Steve. So what is Christian love exactly? What does God mean by love? What does he mean? The answer is in John 15. In John 15, verses 9 through 10, it says, "Just as the Father has loved me, I also have loved you. So abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love." So there can be no Christian love apart from righteousness. Loving is not compatible with sinning. And what happens now in the world that we live in the world that we see, is that love is convoluted with sin. This is in things like sex outside of the sacrament of marriage, right? So the world experience shows that love apart from God has in fact become convoluted by sin. So God's command to us, to his disciples, and to us as his children is to love one another. "This is my commandment," he says, "that you love one another just as I have loved you." And we as mere human beings that we are not free to change or dilute this command by God. And how does Jesus show love? Well, the kind of love that Jesus shows is it's a self-sacrificial love. And God sent his son to die for us, and that is the biggest symbol and act of love in all time, in all of time, in all of our existence. And he died for us. And we are called to, it's not about just giving our time, our treasure, and providing wisdom and explaining talks like this, but it's also dying for others. And this is not the literal translation, okay, of dying. Like, people have done it. That's why we have saints and we have martyrs that have died for our faith, right? But what does it mean to actually die to others and die to ourselves? What does this mean in practical, everyday terms? It pretty much means loving our fellow brothers and sisters. And the act of this is in the washing of the feet. When Jesus, he did pretty much the act of what the youngest slave would do. He knelt down, got on his hands and knees, and scrubbed the feet of his brothers. And if you think about sandals back then, it was hot, it was sweaty, you were walking on dirt. I don't know how often people do laundry, things like that. It is a very humbling thing, and I've seen, couples that get married, they now do this during their wedding reception, and I think it's so beautiful.